calls the doctor and says, "I'm seeing spots." I wake up and see spots. I look out the window, spots. I look at my beautiful wife, spots. "You're a leopard," answers the doctor. "Yes," says the leopard, "but my wife is a zebra." I got the gene. This is how my dad responded when I asked him how he was feeling or what he was thinking shortly after he received what I thought was pretty bad news from the doctor about his health. That's how he responded, literally. Leopard calls the doctor. So, that was our dad, seeing spots where others see stripes, seeing humor in the world. Oftentimes, Dad would tell a joke that was so integrated to the conversation that you didn't know until the punchline that it had been a joke. And it made you wonder when he was sharing a real story if there was going to be a punchline. 13 years ago, our dad was diagnosed with some kind of interstitial lung disease and given 2.5 years to live. At the time, he just retired. We were reading Jonathan Safran Foer's book, who talked about it as retarded. Probably not PC, but he got a good laugh out of it. Given the prognosis, he decided at that time, 13 years ago, to make the best of it, facing life full on. He bought a convertible, traveled to Europe, attended concerts, birthdays, savored as much as he could. He beat the prognosis and lived another amazing decade, which included walking both of his daughters down the aisles at their weddings, finally getting that reward for old age that he'd wanted so long, grandchildren, meeting Patty, and the one trick we didn't think that old dog would learn, committing to the relationship and moving in with his partner. which he told me in the month before he died how proud he was. Surprised and proud, and it meant so much to him to do that. In the last few months, we've been really lucky. Because of the lung disease, his oxygen intake was really low, and we were given the prognosis that he probably had less than a year. So, knowing that his days were short, we took some time to get things in order and talk about important stuff, which I cannot recommend enough that we do with our loved ones. Recently, at one of those nights when I came home from the hospital and couldn't sleep at about 3 in the morning, I got up and decided to write a letter to him. And I'm going to read some of that to you now. This was in November. Dear Dad, first of all, I love you very, very much, and I think you know that. Second of all, I'm grateful for your fathering, for your devotion, your love, and your out-of-the-box dadness. I know there were some terrible years, some teen, drug, 80s, emotional absentee, crazy years, but that was then. And I am so grateful for the healing opportunities we've had around that. It's remarkable for me to think how much you've suffered and how much you've healed. I cannot imagine, and believe me, I've tried, what it must have been like for you to have lost my mom so tragically, the love of your life. I imagine it was crushing, paralyzing. I imagine you wanted to turn back time, change reality, do anything to prevent her from taking her life. Or if not, to milk every day, an hour, a minute. Let her know you loved her, marveled at her, that you couldn't imagine life without her. Dad, I can't quite imagine the world without you yet. At the time after my mother died, your mother and sister offered to take me and raise me for you, but you wondered what life would be without me. It would have really been acceptable and even normal at the time for you to do that, to send me to them, but you didn't. Thank you. You told me recently you've been thinking about your legacy and what teaching you might leave behind for your grandchildren, and I would add for all of us. Well, off the top of my head, I'll say these things. Your jokes, one for every occasion, and just so you know, both of your grandchildren are joke tellers, or think of themselves as funny. Your singing, it's a legacy I love, and I have son Max a a lot of songs I remember you singing to me. Hush-a-bye, don't you cry. I've been working on the railroad, which you got to sing with us too. And the Shema, just to name a few. Road trips, Dad. It is my hope that I'll actually get a camper one day and do it myself. Soundtrack for that, my motor home, sweet motor home. This land is your land, this land is my land. And then one that we actually found ourselves singing in the hospital on a particularly bumpy time in the ups and downs. Front wheels broken, axles dragging, you can't ride in my red wagon. Skiing adventures. As far as we know, you never missed a season until the last run you took with Anton and maybe Ed, where you broke your femur. That was it, but you had quite a record. When I'm in need of an internal landing and peaceful place, sometimes I find myself up on a ski slope mountaintop, or more often I'm at Eagle Cliff, my childhood home, looking out at beautiful Mount Tam. Thank you for raising me and for quite a few of us here. I just want to acknowledge a lot of us in this room lived at Eagle Cliff. So nice to see you, family. Part of your legacy is a fine legal mind with a passion for justice and making the law and the system useful and accessible. You can Google him and see some of these things. I'll probably put some on Facebook. But I think particularly of Jenny Foley and the Title IX ruling that girls deserve and should have equal access and rights to play Little League. And while I wasn't such a sport enthusiast, as you heard, my sister was a little torn up on soccer fields, and I know he was so proud of her. Another amazing thing, Dad, are your letters. As Sarah has said about Amelia getting stickers, we got postcards and letters and just, hi, I was thinking of you. Oh, I ran into so-and-so. It was like, I think that the boxes of letters I have are kind of like my dad's journal and his attesting of what his days were like. And it'll be interesting to go back and read that. Anyway, it was a different time without emails and texts, and we do have all of his stories there, so I treasure them. Thanks for swimming lessons, ski lessons, French class before school, violin, piano lessons, the parrot, not the parrot, sewing lessons, so useful, art and art museums. Our dad took me to art museums as soon as he could wrap me up and take me out of the house, and he has said to me, he's often wondered, what is a person who grows up being exposed to art at an early age, how do they come to see the world? So, because of the length of his illness and because of his relative seeming health, we actually had a long time to talk about death. So while it's hard to imagine the world without you in my life, and while we thought we've been prepared, we aren't prepared. I hope in that place beyond your body, your beloved will be there. You told me a few weeks ago that my mother came to visit you and told me she was going to be dancing with you in the universe soon. So it comforts me to imagine. And I love you so. Part of what's hard about being here is I think my dad would really enjoy seeing all of you. I know that you're holding them in your hearts. He was so loving and unique. In the last days, as the news has traveled around the world, we've just really gotten an outpouring of love through Facebook, through emails. One of the first ones I read, and I don't know if she's here, the one who wrote it, but an old friend who said, when they made Rico, they broke the mold. Dad, you've made the world a better place. And I just have a few more things to say. On October 29th, our dad sneezed. We weren't there, but it was a life-changing sneeze when he said he felt a sharp pain in his chest and found it hard to breathe. He dragged himself upstairs to the oxygen concentrator and willed himself not to close his eyes. My sister found him pale, cold, holding his chest. I showed up a bit later. He held our hands and told us he was proud of us, he loved us, it was a good day to die. And we called 911. For the last month, Sarah, Hattie, Barry, Eva, and I, with the support recording rolls of our husbands and our children and the various people assembled, including Mariana, who I hope can hear me right now back there. For the last month, we've been choreographing shifts. We've been in 2 hospitals with a lot of hopeful ups and some scary downs. I'm the crying one, so I've been crying through it all. It's sort of amazing I haven't broken down yet. It's been a time of stress for sure, but also a lot of grace. We've had great talks in the hospital. We met extraordinary nurses, techs, doctors, and even the people working in the cafeteria who were full of compassion and comfort. We thought our dad was surely on his way home when, repeating one of the nurses' jokes, we walked in to hear him saying, "Guy walks into the psychiatrist's office, wrapped in saran wrap, and that's it." Dr. Johnson says, "Doctor says, Mr. Johnson, I can clearly see your nuts." He made us laugh and he made us cry. And I found myself a lot in the hospital where we didn't quite know what was going to happen next or how we'd reorganize our choreography, often repeating a story that he liked to tell. There's a mountain climber rappelling down a very steep canyon, 100 yards to the bottom, and he starts hearing a gnawing sound, and he looks up, and there's a long-toothed rat biting the rope that he's on. He looks down and he notices there's a little cliff ledge and he can almost get to it, and he's pretty sure that he could just sort of sidle over there when he notices a lip-licking man-eating tiger on the cliff looking at him. Looks up, looks down at the canyon, down at the tiger. He looks straight in front of him at the rock ahead where there's a wild strawberry growing. And he reaches out, picks the strawberry, says, "What a delicious strawberry." The day before I died, I arrived at the hospital and I could hear from down the hall his cries and moans of pain and discomfort. And when I got to his room, the nurse asked him where it hurt, and he said, "All over." But when I came in, it was around 4:30. There were clouds in the sky, the sun was setting, it was sort of this beautiful pink outside. And he said, he pointed out, he said, "Strawberry." There have been a lot of silver linings in this last month. And the most amazing for me has really to do with my sister. To check in daily and find that we're almost always on the same page with similar thoughts. Best partner to share this crazy adventure. Couldn't be more grateful to have Sarah in my life. And I know that our dad's wish was that we be close, that we be at peace. I have one last story to share, and then I invite you to share yours, whether it's online or in letters or on however you want to do it. Shiva. We'll be sitting Shiva Sunday through Wednesday at my house, and the address is on the card. But I want to share the story of the last few hours of his life. He was in a lot of pain. Not a lot, not constant pain. He was in some pain. But spikes of pain. He was having great care. He was mostly lucid until the last 2 days when he spent a lot of time with his eyes closed. He'd open his eyes, look at us, and smile. He was still talking to us, but not a lot. He didn't have a lot of breath. And we knew he didn't want to be in pain. So on that last day, we put on Pandora. We had a Leonard Cohen station. And at one point, he was singing with Bob Dylan, "It's all over now, baby blue." And we knew he was talking about himself. There were songs about trains, songs about the afterworld, and he said to me and Sarah something like, "The train is coming, they're coming to get me, my loved ones are all aboard," something. "My loved ones are coming to get me on the train." And he talked about dancing on the train. He talked really fondly about this trip he took to New Orleans and dancing on the train. The nurses had been offering for a while that he could get a constant drip, which would ease his pain. And on that last day when they came to ask him if he wanted it, they said, "You know, your eyes might not open again, but you'll be comfortable." And they said to us, I mean, our dad has always been clear respirator, no ventilator, no breathing machines, no life for the sake of life. As long as he could be up and enjoying, he wanted to be alive. But he was barely eating at the end. His last meal was some apple raspberry persimmon, something that Barry and Eva made and brought over. So the nurses said that we could take the oxygen off when we wanted, when the time was right, or that he would, go close his eyes, and that, they didn't know how long it would be. So just before this happened, he reached out to give me a kiss, and he had to sit up at the end too because he couldn't really breathe lying down. So he reached out for a kiss, and then he said, "All right then, goodbye." They put the drip in. He closed his eyes, he sat there, and we were pretty all gathered around, and we had some logistics and comings and goings, but by the end of the night, Andy, Bob, Sarah, Griffin, me, we were all there. Sarah and I holding Dad's hand. Stephen called. And Barry. Can I say Barry? Oh, Barry. Stephen called and said, how do you know he's not going to open his eyes again and talk to you and be with you? And we said we didn't know, but we knew that he was in pain, and we knew this wasn't, he didn't want to prolong it a lot. We poured scotch, Johnny Walker Black Label, thanks brother, Mom. We stood over the bed, we toasted our dad and his life. Eva called, and Sarah put the phone up to Dad's ear at some point around 9:30, 9:45. We went back to our post, Sarah on one side, on the right hand, me on the left, holding, talking. At one point I looked up at Dad and said to everyone, you know how Dad has sleep apnea? It's kind of freaking me out. He looks a little gray. Sarah put her hand on his chest, no longer taking labored breaths. We hadn't taken the oxygen off. We just sat there and loved him. Eva apparently said in his ear, not 5 minutes before he passed, "You're surrounded by love, and if you're ready to go, it's okay. You can go." The Beatles were playing Let It Be, and he was gone. And it was that easy, and that peaceful, and there was lightning. We laid him down, closed his eyes, kissed his cheeks. We turned to each other and hugged and kissed. Somehow it was New Year's Eve, or we knew that we had made it through. We cried, we were silent. Nobody came in to bother us for a while. It was pretty awesome. As Sarah said, it was one bubble an hour and the next. We couldn't be more blessed. And what we'd like to do is end this part of the funeral by inviting you to sing with us, but I'm going to invite those assembled players, Sister Patty, Bob, Andy, Barry, Eva, come on up. We'd like you to join us in singing Let It Be, and maybe before we start singing the Rabbi